Jo Ekscelencija Respublikos.
Please stand for the President of the Republic of Lithuania, Gitanas Nausėda, and His Excellency President of the Republic of Poland, Andrzej Duda.
Kolegos.
Dear colleagues, the Seimas of the Republic of Lithuania dedicated the year 2021 as the year of the mutual pledge of the Republic of Lithuania and the 3rd of May Constitution. Thus, the Seimas of the Republic of Lithuania stressed the importance of this constitution, which is the first written constitution in Europe and second written constitution in the world. It laid the foundations for the civil society, both in Lithuania and Poland. This constitution laid the foundations for the human rights tradition. The 3rd of May Constitution and the reform of the state was crowned by the mutual pledge that was adopted in 1791, which has become the major contribution to the Constitution and foreseeing the structure of the government and ensuring equal rights both to the Kingdom of Poland and the Grand Duchy of Lithuania. It is on this occasion that the President of the Republic of Poland, Andrzej Duda, has come to the Seimas of the Republic of Lithuania. I'd like to give the floor to the President of the Republic of Lithuania, Gitanas Nausėda.
Jūsų Ekscelencija, Lenkijos Respublikos.
Your Excellency, President of the Republic of Poland, distinguished Speaker of the Seimas, honorable members of the Seimas, honorable guests, dear people, it gives me enormous pleasure to take part in the commemoration of the mutual pledge of the two nations. As we meet today, we extend and symbolically conclude the festive half-year-long events dedicated to mark the 230th anniversary of the Constitution of the 3rd of May. I am delighted that the President of the Republic of Poland, Andrzej Duda, is paying a visit to the Seimas of the Republic of Lithuania on this special occasion. During my visit to Warsaw 6 months ago, I felt a great responsibility for the Lithuanian, Polish, and other peoples of the region, to whom the heritage of our common state was so close. I have no doubt that His Excellency President also clearly feels the significance and importance of his visit today. We have a great opportunity to remember the common history of Lithuania and Poland, to evaluate the accumulated cultural heritage and the significant contribution of our countries to the development of Europe. We have every right to be proud that the Constitution of the 3rd of May, inspired by the ideas of the Enlightenment epoch, interpreted those ideas in its own way and adapted them to the realities of our region. This legal document will always be remembered positively in that the document allowed Lithuania and Poland to become the frontrunners of constitutional thought. On the 20th of October, 1791, the decision of the Sejm of the Lithuanian Polish Commonwealth to unanimously adopt the mutual pledge of the two nations concluded the discussion that had begun well before the 3rd of May Constitution. This was a natural consequence of the processes that took place at the end of the 18th century, when the Commonwealth of the two nations faced with the existential threat, and our ancestors were prompted to carry out urgent reform and strengthen the state. One of the most striking trends in Europe at the time was the centralization of state authority. Accordingly, many of the most prominent and influential figures of the Lithuanian Polish Commonwealth sought to create a solid from the Kingdom of Poland and the Grand Duchy of Lithuania to mobilize forces and counter alien forces. It is worth noting that even after the adoption of the Constitution of the 3rd of May, the official title of the new Joint Police Commission included the words "of the two nations." Despite being a single institution, it was still shared by the two nations, meaning that it belonged both, not only to Poland or the Commonwealth as such, but also to Lithuania. During the ongoing debate on the further development of the institutions of the Commonwealth, the words by Konstanty Plata, Castellanov, Trakai speak for themselves. He said that being part of a union, Lithuania cannot be considered a province in the common body. Instead, it must be considered as one nation together with the other. The mutual pledge of the two nations was adopted in October 1791 and reflected the natural political evolution of a common state from the Union of Lublin to the Enlightenment epoch. In the constant search for compromise, a constitutional document was born, an integral part of Pacta Conventa, which today can be read only in conjunction with the 3rd of May Constitution. The mutual pledge finally legitimized the political union of binary nature and the status of Lithuania as an equal partner in a federal state. In this way, the authors of the mutual pledge managed to reconcile the need for centralization of the state with the tradition of state autonomy of the Grand Duchy of Lithuania. The document, whose 230th anniversary we celebrate today, is important to us not only as part of the Constitution of the 3rd of May. This document is first and foremost a proof that the development of cross-border relations between Lithuanians and Poles was based, and continues to be based, on the art of compromise. It must be based on trust and tolerance. Only this way we can prolong our strategic alliance and build on it in a changing geopolitical reality. Ladies and gentlemen, Lithuania and Poland rose twice from the ashes in the 20th century, relying on the traditions of freedom and statehood transmitted from generation to generation. It is for the 3rd time that we have risen and are free to build our own states and to strive for the well-being of our people. We have never lived so well before. We have never had such strong security guarantees. I'm pleased to say that Lithuania and Poland continue to go hand in hand. In recent decades, we have witnessed the rapid development of bilateral relations. I'm sure, however, that we have not exhausted all the possibilities for cooperation so far. Growing military, technological, economic threats and challenges are an important incentive to act together. Like 230 years ago, Lithuania and Poland are on the front lines of Western civilization today. Attempts to increase tension at the eastern borders of the European Union and NATO give us particular tasks, not only to ensure the security of our countries, but also to maintain a balance in the region. We must not only pay particular attention to bilateral military cooperation, but also strengthen the unity within NATO, reinforce our border infrastructure, and involve Ukraine in the security system. Ukraine, that is both culturally and politically close to us, and to seek restoration of its territorial integrity. Our countries spare no effort to help the citizens of the neighboring Belarus to freely and democratically elect their country's government. We believe in this, and we therefore keep the format of the Lublin Triangle open to a future democratic Belarus. At the same time, this means that we need to actively prepare ourselves to face new threats. The hybrid attack of the Belarusian regime, pushing thousands of irregular migrants across the border of Lithuania, Poland, and Latvia, demonstrated the need to improve the existing EU legislation. We must strive to adapt European law to new realities so that we can secure the protection of the EU's external borders. I'd like to use this opportunity to express my sincere gratitude to Poland for its assistance in managing the migration crisis caused by the Belarusian regime, as well as for its political support for the unsafe nuclear power plant in Astrovets and our ambition to prevent access into the EU internal market of electricity produced there. As before, I personally expect a great deal from the cooperation between Lithuania and Poland when it comes to the development of the EU's Eastern Partnership policy. Our success in this area will determine the stability and future prosperity of the region as a whole. We must therefore do our utmost to ensure the strategic direction of the Eastern Partnership policy and to maintain the incentives to pursue ambitious reforms. The spirit of the Constitution of the 3rd of May and the mutual pledge of the two nations is also perfectly reflected in recent developments in economic, energy, and cultural cooperation between our countries. We are sincerely pleased to see the rapid development of the Polish transport infrastructure. It is with great enthusiasm that we have been involved in the work of the Rail Baltica project, and we're now looking forward to the year 2026, when the operation of the European gauge railway will begin. We hope to implement, together with Poland, the Harmony Link project by 2025, which is necessary for the synchronization of the Baltic states' electricity power lines with the continental Europe network. Another project, the development of the electricity interconnection with Poland, should be completed in the near future. Moreover, it's equally important that cooperation between cultural, historical, and scientific institutions, researchers, heritage specialists, and museums between the two countries does not stand still. It's being constantly developed in a targeted manner. Today, such cooperation is best symbolized by the opening of an international exhibition and scientific conference in the Palace of the Grand Dukes of Lithuania, dedicated to the Constitution of the 3rd of May and the mutual pledge of the two nations. In Warsaw, half a year ago I said, and I can repeat the same now, that Lithuania is only still discovering the Constitution of the 3rd of May. I hope that we will all see this Constitution to include the mutual pledge of the two nations. I wish we could all remember it as a unique attempt of the time to solve the systemic problems pertaining to the modernization of the Lithuanian-Polish Commonwealth and its society. May the spirit of the Constitution of the 3rd of May and the mutual pledge of the two nations that had withstood two extremely difficult centuries, and the importance of which was rediscovered in the modern era of freedom, always inspire our people. May the mutual trust, respect, and tolerance always form the basis of Lithuanian-Polish relations. Thank you for your attention.
Kviečiu sveikinimo žodį.
I now give the floor to His Excellency President of the Republic of Poland, Andrzej Duda.
Jūsų ekscelencija prezidente,
Your Excellency President, Madam Speaker of the Seimas, Honorable members of the Seimas, ladies and gentlemen, dear guests, our dear brotherly nation of Lithuanians, it is not a coincidence that I have used the words which is not used when talking about other nations. Our relations, however, are of particular, exceptional nature. The history of the union of our military forces and political union covers several centuries. We will never be just ordinary neighbors because you, Lithuanians, just like us, Poles, are part of the great civilizations which we have built together. You are our brothers. Ladies and gentlemen, I am truly privileged to be speaking at the Seimas of the Republic of Lithuania on the eve of the mutual pledge, on the eve of the 230th anniversary of the mutual pledge. Pledge means the moment when two people commit to each other. We have adopted the decision as two sovereign nations. Ladies and gentlemen, do you know any other nation that are celebrating such mutual pledges? Not a strategic partnership, but the anniversary of mutual pledge. This is the anniversary that pertains only to Lithuania and Poland only. Lithuania is our loyal partner both within the European Union and NATO. Lithuania, which used to extend across the lines of the current Belarus. Allow me to remind you those times when we were a common state. Poland without Lithuania would have been just an ordinary medieval state without access to the sea and engaged in many conflicts with its neighbors. Poland would be doomed to retreat before the increasing power of Russia. We lived in the times when we respected tolerance and inclusivity. Poland also helped to bring Christianity to Lithuania. We shared our military capabilities during those times. Well, the word pledge means security and guarantee, but it also is related to the act of engagement that brings two close people together. In fact, this historical moment is related to the political dimension of the state. The mutual pledge, very important on its own. It was very important to answer the question whether, having adopted the mutual pledge, the Commonwealth was the union of two separate sovereign entities, or whether that was a centralized, united, and strong state. That was the question that was deliberated by the members of the then parliament and by the Crown. During the negotiations, we have managed to come up with a decision to adopt the mutual pledge of the two nations, which proved that the two nations, both Lithuanians and Poles, were equal. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, we often tend to make some moments of our history more beautiful than it is. We lost our states for several times in the past. We faced with many enemies, but we also have to admit that we faced with difficult times not only to external enemies, but also to the mistakes made by our ancestors, which now means that we have to make sure that such mistakes are not repeated ever again. We have managed to survive even despite the losses that we underwent. We all know the slogan for our and your freedom. We all remember the revolt of the 1863 led by Kosciuszko. 2 years ago, we came to Vilnius and celebrated this very particular occasion. It should also be noted that our ancestors at the beginning of the 20th century failed to have political will. They failed to show their trust, and they paid the highest price for that. We have to speak about that openly. My country, Poland, also has some reprimands to make to itself. We were separated by the Soviet borders. We were made to think in a hostile way about each other. Still, my generation still remember another Lithuania that dared to stand against the Soviet Empire, Lithuania that dared to challenge the Soviet Empire when the entire world did not believe that Lithuania will succeed. We were amazed by the bravery of Lithuanians when you were attacked by the oppressors of Moscow in 1991. We understood back then that the Soviet Union has no perspectives, that it was a failing empire. And again, when the Western world had doubts about you, you did not have any doubts. Let me pay a tribute to those who sacrificed their lives for their freedom and our freedom too. After 30 years, we decided to illuminate the President's palace in the colors of Lithuanian national flag. I remember the Polish writer who wrote a song about the collapse of the Soviet Union. That song contained the words, "Behind our border, there is Lithuania that is happy about its independence." So, these words showed that we are very close, both in political sense and spiritually. Today, we are part of the European Union and NATO. We have been part of those organizations for 17 years now. We have joined the 3Cs initiative. And just like my counterpart and friend Gitano Nausėdos, President of the Republic of Lithuania, truly believe in the success of this initiative. Today, I'd like to say it very openly that both Lithuanians and Poles are equal nations that live in their own countries, that respect their rights, respect their language and identity. Lithuania and Poland unite their forces when they express their dissatisfaction with the aggression and the violations at our borders. And you are well aware of what I am talking about. There is no need for words when it comes to understanding brotherly nations. I am grateful for your support since the very beginning of the hybrid attacks launched by the Lukashenko regime. I am grateful to you for informing the world, for telling to the world that it was the hostile regime that misinformed the migrants. It is the hostile regime that tries to push the migrants across our borders. I am grateful to you for showing unity and solidarity to us. I am grateful for your support to our brotherly nation, Belarusians, because they are also part of the Commonwealth of the two nations, and they were also part of the heritage of the mutual pledge of the two nations. I'm grateful to you for your same approach to the future of Belarus and the future of independent Belarus. I believe that these two things are out of question. We should be striving for the independence. I am also grateful for the centuries of very beautiful historical moments, even when we were separated by painful historical moments. Thank you for everything. Thank you, Lithuania. His Excellency President of the Republic of Poland, Andrzej Duda.